Atari's Combat is genuinely an incredibly fun video game. Combat was the Wii Sports to the Atari 2600. It came with the console as a pack-in game, and for many people, it would have been the first game that they tried on their new Atari 2600. But it would have been familiar already as it was based on Atari's Jet Fighter arcade game and Tank, an arcade game developed by Key Games. The story of Key Games is actually insane, so we're going to have a bit of a tangent here. Key Games was created to circumvent exclusivity contracts that Atari had. Key Games was created by a friend and neighbor of an Atari co-founder. It hired former Atari employees, used hardware supplied by Atari, and it made clones of Atari games. The company existed because many arcade distributors wanted exclusivity deals and Atari wanted more money. Eventually, Key Games wanted to make their own games and started developing Tank. Tank was a huge hit. Key Games was actually merged into Atari before the release of Tank, and the arcade cabinet's success helped keep Atari afloat. It sold over 10,000 units, and there's even a claim that this number was only for the year 1974, which would make it the best-selling game of the year. In 1976, Replay magazine found that Tank and its successor, Tank 2, combined to be the highest-earning arcade cabinet of 1975. Tank was then incorporated into Combat. Combat was a combination of Key Games' Tank and Atari's fighter jets. Interestingly, the game started with good reviews, but by the early 80s it had a pretty negative reception. Many reviewers called it outdated with the rapid progress of technology, especially with the release of the Atari 5200. So what is it like to play today? In the time that I have played the game, I found Combat to be so insanely fun. The simplicity works for it, rather than against it, like with Pong. In the basic tank mode, you simply move your stick left to turn left, or right to turn right, and forward to move forward. Then you click a button to shoot. That's it, at least at first glance. There are 27 different game modes. The combat manual on the left tells you what is different between each mode. You have the main tank mode that I described, Tank Pong, where your bullets bounce off walls, then invisible versions of these. There are then two airplane dogfighting modes, where there is constant forward movement. Biplane is a side-on view, and Jet has a classic top-down view similar to the tank games. Each game only allows you to fire one bullet at a time. The variations make the game incredibly dynamic, even for the base tank game mode. The different mazes for the tank mode can make for interesting strategy, even though collision with the walls is pretty buggy. You will want to hide behind the walls, then try to peek out to attack, but if you are too slow to retreat, you can get hit yourself. But then, if you try that strategy in the guided missile mode where turning your tank changes your bullet's direction, now a skilled player can snipe you around corners. Then, you have the tank pong mode. Walls don't mean much when I can bounce my bullets off random walls and hit you. Sometimes I can just launch a bullet, bouncing off some walls a few times, and then hit my opponent, sending me into a fit of laughter. In the billiard hit mode, you can only hit your opponent by bouncing the bullet first, making you feel like an MLG pro every time you hit them. The invisible versions are interesting at first. You have no idea where your tank is until you shoot or get shot. Shooting reveals the position of your tank until the bullet despawns. This creates an interesting dynamic where you want to try to stay hidden as long as possible and hope you hit your enemy with a stray shot. Unfortunately, if you never shoot, your opponent will never find you, so you can just stay hidden and not interact. This makes the mode, unfortunately, pretty boring. The biplanes are a little awkward at first. We kinda didn't realize that we were on a side view of the planes, and it was kinda disorienting at first as you move up and down, not left to right. The constant forward movement was incredibly fun, however, as you needed to lead your shots a bit to try to hit your opponent. Flying behind the clouds is also really cool. You fly into them and it feels like you disappear forever and then come out and sneak up on your opponent and blast them. Biplane's machine gun mode is a little mindless. Machine guns are a mode exclusive to the biplanes, where holding down the shoot button gives you a fast-firing but short-range gun. The strategy here is to simply hold down the shoot button and try to fly directly into your opponent. As I said, mindless. Jet is similar to biplanes, but a little closer to the tanks. Jet returns to the top-down view from the tank modes, but keeps the constant forward movement. This was a bit easier to wrap our heads around as we played, but it ended up being pretty similar to the biplanes with controls closer to the tanks. Multiplane, biplane, and jet are really weird. In the manual, game 19, 25, and 27 are 2v2, and 20 and 26 are 1v3. What this actually means is that you're just controlling more planes with the same inputs. The 1 vs 3 biplane mode has one person controlling a single big plane and the other person 3 little ones. The jet 1 vs 3 mode has the one be the same size as normal. I could see these modes being good for a new player versus an experienced one, allowing the new player to get some points easily. I think Combat is a really fun game. I genuinely think that if I was a kid in the 70s and I owned an Atari 2600, I would be playing this game with my friends all the time. It is insanely fun because of, not in spite of, its simplicity. The game feels like a fun test of skill with just enough competition to feel fun, but not so much that you tilt when you lose. I recommend finding an emulator online and trying it out with a good friend for a bit. It's a great time. Thanks for watching. Next time on WikiQuest, I'm going to be playing Zork, which I'm pretty excited about because it's actually a pretty cool and interesting game. Thanks.